matter how in love you are, sometimes being married can feel like a chore. I know that's hard for you guys to believe because you look at Natasha and you think, well, she's married to the pastor. But even for her sometimes, no matter how in love you are, no matter how smitten you are with that beautiful girl, that hunky guy, sometimes it can feel like a little bit of a chore. No matter how enamored you are with being mommy and getting hugs or being dad and throwing the football in the backyard, sometimes being a parent can feel like a chore. No matter how hard you're climbing the corporate ladder and you want to be the boss someday and be the hiring and firing and make all the decisions, if you've ever been the boss, you know that sometimes being the boss is actually a chore. Sometimes I've thought, man, this would be easier if I just go back to like janitor and it just, okay? Because you don't have all of the weight on you. There are a lot of things in life that are delightful, but they also sometimes feel like a little bit of a grind. And one of those things when we're here in church is studying the Bible. Okay, let's just be honest. Studying the Bible should be delightful. We're supposed to really enjoy it, but sometimes it can feel like a little bit of a chore. 2 weeks ago, Pastor Shad told you if you want to be prepared for the attacks from your spiritual enemy, if you want to be ready to face temptation, you need to study the Bible. You need to read it. On a regular basis. Last week, we said if you want God to speak to you, you have to come to the Bible with ears to hear. You have to be ready to soak that in, and it needs to be a part of your regular routine. And so last week, I challenged you to come to every day whenever that is, you read the Bible, just say, God, what do you want to speak to me today? I'm listening. But I'm also a realist. And I understand that for some of you guys, you heard it on Sunday and you're like, yeah, that sounds good. And then about halfway through the week, you're like, what am I supposed to read next? And it kind of fell off the rails because it sort of felt like a chore. Or some of you guys are like, yeah, that sounds good. I'm going to get to that. But you didn't because it kind of felt like a chore. Or some of you guys were maybe like, man, no offense, dude, I'm probably not going to do that because it felt like a chore sometime. Okay, and I know there's some passages in the Old Testament where you're reading through and you're like, dude, I don't even know what they're talking about here. It's like laws about if there's this kind of mold in your house and that kind of mold in your house. Like, I don't even know what to do with this. Put it away. But it's important, okay? It's important. And so because it's such a foundational part of your Christian life, I want to talk about how to make it less of a grind and less of a chore, because it should also be a delight. The Bible talks a lot about why you should read it. And one of those kind of, if you look and you're looking for a chapter in the Bible that's just all focused on reading the Bible, it would be Psalm 119. Okay? Psalm 119. If you grew up in church, you might have heard some of these passages before. The psalmist is writing about studying, and he says this in verse 9. He says, how can a young person stay on the path of purity? By living according to your word, right? The Bible. Do what the Bible says. I seek you with all my heart. Do not let me stray from your commands. I've hidden your word in my heart that I might not sin against you. Okay, so this is what Pastor Chad was talking about a few weeks ago. You want to stand up to temptation, you better put this stuff in your mind now. I'm stockpiling it. I'm storing it up so that when those pressure times come, I do the right thing. And that's absolutely valid, okay? That's an important dynamic. But let's be honest, when you read that or when you listen to that, here's kind of what it sounds like, all right? The purpose of reading the Bible is to gain knowledge so you can learn the rules. And once you learn the rules, then you will follow the rules because you know if you're breaking the rules or not. But that feels like a chore. That doesn't feel delightful. That feels like a responsibility. I'm supposed to do this. I have to do this so that I know the rules so I don't break the rules. But then if you keep reading in the same psalm, okay, it's a long poem. And it's all one continuous thought. If you keep reading, then you get to verse 20 and look at this, okay? I'm not making this up. This direct quote from the Bible. Psalm 119:20 says, my soul is crushed with longing for your ordinance at all times. Now that sounds like, okay, no offense, that sounds like a junior high romance right there. My soul is crushed with longing to get to talk to you for just a few more minutes on Snapchat before I have to go to bed. I just have to have a little more, okay? That does not sound like a chore. Verse 47, same psalm. How I delight in your commands, how I love them. In verse 54, no matter where I am, your teachings fill me with songs. It's like, wow, when I read the Bible, I just want to suddenly break out to do, the hills are alive with the sound of music. Ooh. Okay, that is not, for most of you, that is not your experience every time you read the Bible. You don't burst out into song. That would be a little awkward if you did, I think. But when you look at that, you say, well, it's supposed to feel like a delight. So it feels like a chore. Was supposed to be delightful. And if it's such a foundational part of your Christian faith, which it is, then you really ought to be able to do it without constantly thinking, man, I know I'm supposed to read again tonight. Oh, okay, next week, Lord. Tomorrow, snooze. Can I just open up the app real quick so that I keep my streak and close it again? Because I promise I'll catch up eventually. I know none of you have ever done that on the Bible app. I know your streaks are completely legitimate, like mine. Okay, but sometimes it's a chore, and if it's all chore and no delight, then I want to tell you, there's probably something out of balance. If it's all chore and no delight, okay, if your marriage has become all chore and no delight, something needs to change. All right, there's something unhealthy there. If parenting has become all chore and no delight, if your job has become all chore and no delight, probably something needs to change. Well, it's the same with studying the Bible. I want to talk about that today because the odds are if it has become just a grind and you dread doing it, or you do it only because you have to and you're like, whew, I'm glad that's over, then probably either your expectations or your approach needs some adjustment. And I want to look at both of those today. Okay, so if you're taking notes, either online, you can get the notes there in the Bible app, or if you're here, you can fill those in if that's an easier way for you to learn. You want to write this down, okay? Bible study is about more than gaining knowledge. It's about more than learning new things. And if in your mind it has become just, I need to learn something new, then yeah, you're going to be frustrated sometimes because it's a big book, but there's only so much in there. Now, reading the Bible is about gaining knowledge because you're on the hook for what God wants you to do, whether you realize it or not. When I was in college, I got pulled over once on the highway for an infraction. And I told the officer, I didn't even know that was a law. And he said, well, we passed it a few months ago. So I didn't hear. And he's like, well, it's still the law. Here's your ticket. You can drive over here and pay it. Or you're still on the hook. It is about learning new stuff. But it's not just about learning new things. It's also, write this down, it's also about familiarity. Reading the Bible is sometimes about, wow, I never saw that before. But honestly, a lot of it, especially those of you who've been serving the Lord a long time, it's also about this right here. This is a big part of it, okay? It's kind of like this. How many of you guys in the room, if I gave you a few minutes, you could write down for me 12 of the elements on the periodic table with their abbreviations? How many of you guys said, if I had a minute, I could probably do that without the phone? Somebody just got shot blocked. I could. No, you couldn't. I'd see you in class. Okay, maybe one or two of you. I don't know, maybe. Okay, it's been a while since chemistry. How many of you guys, without any time at all, could write down all 12 months in their abbreviations? Yeah. Okay. Both important things, both things that you learned in school. All right. But one of those things you learned, and it was new to you about 40 years ago, and then since then you haven't touched it. And one of those, you write all the time. Every time you write a check, every time you're texting somebody, every time you're writing something down on your calendar, you're constantly refreshing what the months of the year are and what their abbreviations are. Okay? Really important things that you use all the time, you become more familiar with. Some of you guys know I was not a Bible major in college. I was a psychology major and music. I actually double majored. And there's a lot of science that comes into this too. Okay, it's not going to come as a surprise to you. Neurologists have figured out that every time you rehearse something that you already know, you strengthen the neural connection in your head. You physically strengthen and reinforce that path in your mind, which is why it's important to set your mind on positive things and not just to ruminate over the negative, because you just, studying the Bible is the same way. And not every time that you open up the book are you going to say, wow, I've never seen that before. And as soon as I read those words, the heavens parted and stuff was like shining down and I could feel this trickle on my spine and gold dust fell from the ceiling and okay. And everything started spinning around. Sometimes you're going to read and be like, okay. And you go on with your day, but you're stockpiling the truth. You're reinforcing things that you need to know. It's not just about knowledge. It's also about familiarity. Here's another one. Reading the Bible, studying the Bible is not just about gaining knowledge. It's also about perspective shaping. Write that down in your notes. If it's been a while since you've spelled perspective and you're used to the phone fixing it for you, we'll leave that up on screens. It's also about shaping your perspective. It's about setting your mindset and centering it around something other than you. I want you to imagine that you did an experiment, okay? Let's say you wanted to see what setting a perspective meant for the rest of your day. So you do a 2-month experiment. Month 1, every day, you spend 10 minutes before you go to work or before you go to school or before you go hit the greens with your buddies. You spend 10 minutes studying the Bible, and then you go through your day. And then month 2, every day before you do anything else, you spend 10 minutes watching Fox News or CNN, and then you go through your day. I'm not against Fox News or CNN. I want to know what's happening in the world. But I want you to imagine stepping into your job, having started the day saying, I'm going to center around God's truth, whether that's new to me today or not. Or I'm going to start today considering what's wrong in the world and why I should be upset about it, and then I'm going to go to my job. Makes a difference. What if you did the experiment and you said, well, I like to read at night. So every month, for a month, every day, you read the Bible for 10 minutes right before you go to sleep. So it's the last thing on your mind. And then the next month, every day before you go to sleep, you scroll TikTok and you see what's trending right before you go to sleep. I'm not against TikTok, not against trending. But one of those things is centering your day around God and saying, this is the most important thing, and this is where I want to base the rest of my day. Sometimes studying the Bible is just as much about making the effort to say, God, I'm listening to whatever you want from me. It puts your heart in the right position so that when you go through the day, you're already in that mindset. It's more than just gaining knowledge. And sometimes if reading the Bible has become a grind, a drudgery, it could be that you're expecting every single time this huge revelation of truth. And in truth, it's just as much about reinforcing what you know and remembering those things and committing those further into memory and just spending time with the Lord. So if it has become a chore, consider adjusting your expectations. Here's the other thing that tends to help. Okay, if it feels like a grind, if it feels like a chore, you might need to change your approach to studying. Because, write this down in your notes, the daily habit takes discipline, but the actual study shouldn't. The actual study should be something that's life-giving to you. And if it's not, that's not a feature of the Bible. That's something between the Bible and you approaching it has gotten a little out of balance. And I think that's where friction is coming in. Because again, when I look at these passages, the guy who writes your teaching fills me with song. And my soul is crushed with longing to learn more from the Bible. Okay, that it's the same source material as what you're reading. Okay, so either the guy who wrote the passage is crazy, or maybe he's looking at it in a different way than I am. And sometimes, just because we're Americans and we've been used to doing it one way, sometimes the way that we're going about it makes it more difficult than it needs to be. So let me give you a couple of tips, okay? This is not, and just setting your expectations. I don't think this is a deeply spiritual, crying at the altar kind of a message today, but I think it's a deeply practical one that can actually benefit you if you put this into practice. Here are a few tips. This is from Pastor Chris, so if you're like, well, I think you're crazy, just ignore it, okay? But best practices. Here's one. I say this a lot. I'm going to say it again. Write this down. Choose a pace that works for you. Choose a pace that works for you. For some of you guys, you are expert readers. Some of you are avid. You're like, you subscribe to you're reading stuff all the time just for fun, and you've read this a lot. And for you guys, reading 8, 10, 15 chapters, I read the whole book of James today, is a good pace, because you just blah, 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 suck it in. That's awesome. Do it. For some of you guys, reading a paragraph is like, whew, okay, that was good. I think I learned something. Let me stop there. Sometimes you just need the pastor to say, that's okay. There is no merit badge for how fast you read the Bible. The ultimate goal is that you spend time with the Lord daily, and that's a way that you do it. Okay? So if it's one book, one chapter, okay, if it's one verse that you read and you just stop and think about it, there's value in there. I would say the bigger thing is consistency. If you're spending some time with the Lord every single day saying, God, how can I learn from you today? That's worth a whole lot more than saying, well, I was on pace to read the Bible in a year, but in July I kind of got behind and now I have to read 14 chapters a day. Stop. It's okay. Just read. All right? So choose a pace that works for you. Here's another one that I think we don't talk about enough in church, and I want to get better about this. Write this down in your notes. Watching or listening is just as valid as reading. Just as valid. In fact, I've been careful today to try to say studying the Bible and not reading the Bible, because we are a very reading the Bible oriented culture. But I also realize this: 50% of adults in Illinois, which is some of you guys, read at a sub-6th grade reading level. Okay, so can't read it all up to 5th grade level. That's half of our adults in the state. Reading is not something that a lot of us just naturally do and love and are super good at, and it's easy. I also know statistically that about 30% of us learn best by listening more than visual. About 30% of American adults are oriented toward auditory learning. Did you ever think about this? Did you know? In Jesus' time, the primary way that people would interact with the Bible was by listening, not by reading. The primary way. The guy who wrote the poem that said, your words fill me with songs and I want to cheer, would probably come to gather around a whole bunch of people, and they would recite it, and everybody else would just sit and listen. Did you know that the Gospel of Mark, for a long time before it was written down, was presented orally? And Peter and some of the other guys would travel from town to town, and they would quote the whole thing, and people came to faith by listening long before it was written down. They only wrote it down because it's like the guys are getting older and we need to make sure everybody knows how to read this. Did you know that when Paul is writing the books of the Bible that we quote all of the time, he would write this letter and somebody would take it to the church, and then everybody else in the church would sit and listen to it as somebody read it. So much of this can be soaked in by listening, and sometimes the thing that makes it awkward is just you're just not really great at reading. You just don't love reading. It's a little bit of a chore. Maybe you are dyslexic. I've got members of my family, okay? They are highly intelligent, but their brains just don't see words the same way as other people, and it's challenging. So don't let that stand in the way. I love, one of the reasons I talk about the Bible app a lot is because there are some fantastic, absolutely free audio versions of the Bible. Okay, New Living Translation, New International Version. There are a few other ones in there too. If you open the Bible app and you look for one that has the little triangle like a play button at the bottom, you can just hit that with your thumb and it will read the Bible to you. And I need you to know that is absolutely as valid as reading, 100%. Okay, I love the Lumo Project. It's a group of people that are working on having a verse by verse video depiction of what you're reading in the Bible. And all of the Gospels are on there. It's on the Bible app. It's on YouTube. If you have Spotify, you can listen to the Bible on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever you listen to stuff. Okay? But interact in whatever way works best for you. Maybe your morning commute, okay? If you work in Bloomington, you got a long time on the road. Just hit play and say, I'm going to listen to the Bible. That's not less than reading it. Okay? So find a pace that works for you. Okay? Listen or watch if that's easier. And then here's another one. Write this down. Choose a translation that fits you. Choose a translation of the Bible that fits you. One of the awesome things about speaking English is that we have so many different translations of the Bible available to us. And you can pick whichever one you understand best. I know there are some, there's been stuff floating around in social media about, well, if you look at the King James Version and then this other version, they took these words out. Okay, look, King James was translated from original languages into English, just like the newest translations of the Bible were translated from the original into English. Nobody is taking stuff out. No one's trying to trick you. No Bible publisher has been bought by Satanists and they're trying to delete the gospel. Pick the translation that fits and that you interact with. Let me give you a couple that I like. All right? And you may want to write this down. And let me just say this. If you've been reading and serving the Lord for a long time, there's great value in reading the same passage in a different translation. Because none of the stuff was spoken in English. Okay? So we're doing our best to approximate the original intent. And sometimes reading it in a different translation, different stuff stands out. You're like, wow, you know what? I never saw that before. That's pretty cool. Okay? Let me give you a couple that I like. These are not more holy than the other versions of the Bible. Okay? You don't need to rush out and buy all of these. This is just from my experience. If you want a translation that feels a little bit more Bible-y, okay, that's not a word, but if you use it in Scrabble today, you have my blessing. It counts. Double word points. If you're looking for something that feels, okay, if you grew up in church and you learned to quote these things back in the King James era, all right, try the ESV, the English Standard Version. Okay, this is as close as you will get to a modern version of the King James Version. Okay, so I love the King James, but something that has benefited from hundreds of years of finding more copies of the Old Testament and getting a little better at understanding culture. All right, so let me give you a little bit of a taste test here. All right, our main passage from the day in the ESV sounds like this: "With my whole heart I seek you. Let me not wander from your commandments. I have stored up your word in my heart that I might not sin against you." Okay? So if you're looking for something kind of like that, ESV. Here's another one. If you're looking for something that's kind of balanced between technical stuff and readable thought translation, try the New Living Translation, NLT. This is the one that I teach from the most because it's not a paraphrase of the Bible, but it's conversational English. Same passage sounds like this in the New Living Translation. "I have tried hard to find you. Don't let me wander from your commands. I've hidden your word in my heart that I might not sin against you." Okay? Same thing, same idea, slightly different verbiage. If you're looking for something that's really easy to read and as simpler terms and phrases. Okay, if you and if you might be embarrassed that people knew this, but secretly, if you're that person that you're like, please don't call on me to read out loud because it's just not a strength of yours. Hey, dude, half of Illinois is right where you are. There no there's no extra credit for reading difficult passages. The Bible should be easy to understand. Okay, try the contemporary English version, the CEV. It sounds kind of like this: I worship you with all my heart. Don't let me walk away from your commands. I treasure your word above all else. It keeps me from sinning against you. Okay? Same idea, different way to say it. And then here's one more. If some of you guys are like, I love studying. I want to deep dive. I want to really get into the gritty and like read the same passage for a week and like chew on it. Here's a great way to do that: the Amplified Bible. Okay, this is commentary that's baked in. If you want to do that for extended study, the Amplified Bible. Same passage. It sounds like this: with all my heart, I have sought you. And then they'll put these things in brackets. Okay, this is like a little inside, a little extra help. Inquiring of you and longing for you. Do not let me wander from your commands. Put that next one up. Neither through ignorance nor by willful disobedience. Okay, this is just kind of like zooming you in, helping you see like what's the original intent behind that one term. Your word have I treasured and stored in my heart that I may not sin against you. There are different ways or different translations. Another reason I like the Bible app, use whatever you want, is because you can just switch from different translations right on the fly. None of these are expensive. If you like print Bibles and you're like, ooh, I kind of want to try that one, you go on Amazon and get a paperback for like $12. Okay, it shouldn't be, but man, make whatever changes you can to make this thing to lower the threshold, to make it easier to just soak it in, because it's supposed to be a delight. It's supposed to be a time of connecting with the Lord. And yeah, you're not going to learn brand new stuff every time, but you're going to reinforce what you know. And sometimes you will learn brand new things. Sometimes you've read this passage 12 times, and the 13th time you turn it on, the Holy Spirit just highlights something in your mind. You go, wow, that's so great. I never saw that before. But there's so much value to it. Can I just share as we kind of wrap this up? Over Christmas break, okay, I have a very regimented daily Bible reading strategy. I'm a breakfast guy. Some of you guys think that's silly. I always eat breakfast, and breakfast is my time when I'm just spending time with the Lord. I'm reading, I'm praying. Okay, we do that together. But over holiday break, my whole schedule just got completely out of whack. It's just okay. I was sleeping in. We were staying up super late. I was like, well, I guess it's not breakfast today. It's brunch. And so that Bible study during Christmas break and holiday break, it's not that I didn't read at all, but it's like, oh man, I almost forgot. Okay, let me read real quick before bed. Oh man, I lost my streak. Now I have to start over at 0 because I forgot today. And I just got out of the routine. I'm not making this up. Okay. We got back into a regular schedule, and I sat down at the counter with bacon and eggs, and I opened up the Bible, and it was like, man, Lord, I miss this. It wasn't even guilt. It wasn't like, God, I'm so sorry. In that moment, it was like, man, I missed this. I didn't realize how big of a deal this was in my life until it wasn't there, and I'm like, wow. I miss that daily, just that little time starting the day every day before I do anything else. And some of you, if it's at night, I support that. If it's over lunch, I support that. Just make it a routine. But it should be a delight. And guys, I'll go 3 weeks and I'm like, okay, I know I'm stashing this away for the future. I don't know that there's anything brand new that I've never seen before that I learned, but God is reminding me of stuff, and I'm strengthening those pathways. And that's such a vital part of your Christian walk, and it shouldn't be all chore. It's always going to take discipline, but it shouldn't be all grind. It should be a delight. You should have times when you read and you say, wow, man, I forgot that was in there. That's good. There should be times when you read or you listen and you say, man, I need to share that on social. That's good stuff. There should be times when you have something going on in your life and you're like, that was just like what I heard last week. Man, it's like God knew that I needed to be reminded of this before I came into it. And you need that. You need that. Your spiritual health depends on growing with the Lord. And so I encourage you to take these things to heart and say, man, I need this to be part of my life. Whether it's reading or listening or videos, if it's the verse of the day, you just open the app, okay? But do it. So it'll make a huge difference. It'll make a huge difference in your life. Hey there, just wanted to take a minute to say thanks for watching. If a friend sent you this link, it's because they believe what we talked about today is going to make a positive impact in your life. And if it did, there's probably somebody that you care about who could benefit from it. So take a minute to share this video with somebody. Post it to your timeline or send them a direct link. And if you're able, take a minute to give using the link at the bottom of the description on this video. One last thing. Maybe you feel a tug at your soul and you're ready to take the next step in your spiritual life and form a relationship with God. We've got folks here who would love to talk with you about it. So just text prayer to the number on your screen and we'll follow up with you. It's also in the description on this video in case that helps. Thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.